All right, Joy, welcome. I'm so happy to be talking to you today about the work.
Mhm.
Wow. So I kind of like to go back in a little historical timeline. I think it's always interesting, like sort of where you were, how you found the work, how you bumped into it, and what happened, how you knew, like what drew you in.
So I was a student of the Course in Miracles for a long time, and still am, and and there was nothing that could really pull me away from, or like I'd look at a book and like no, 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 not I couldn't, and so I went to this. It was like a women's spiritual group that was going to be the course and a couple of other things, and I'm like, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But I went, and I think it was the first meeting or maybe the second, and she read some quotes by Byron Katie, just really short things, and I'm like, who who is that? Like, just so immediately, like, I don't even remember what the quotes were, but it was obviously something that just broke the mind's patterns. And so I got all her books right away.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I started doing the work on my own. That was like in February of 2009. And then it turned out um, that I was able to go to the school in August of that year.
Wow.
And that was really amazing also how that happened. So I wouldn't have had the money. But in April, I had a fire and a flood at my house. So I came home from teaching art. It was maybe 5 o'clock. The alarm's going off. And what had happened, this is really weird, but it's actually common. But it was weird for me.
Yeah.
Exhaust fans in the bathroom are one of the biggest causes of house fires, or a big cause. And I never turned mine on, but someone had spent the night and they left it on, and that started a fire. And that burned out in the ceiling, which dropped down, which broke the toilet, which flooded and flooded and flooded. And so anyway, what happened ultimately was it ruined a whole bunch of my paintings, which the insurance company paid for. And that was my money for the school. And I didn't know what I was going to get or anything until pretty close to the school.
Wow.
But I was clear, if that money comes through, that it's like Katie, I know where it's going already. And so yeah, so that was just,
Yeah.
It's the perfect, how can the worst be the best, even without having the work yet. It was just an amazing example.
Yeah.
Of how, and Katie says money can come from anywhere, and literally, yeah.
Where was that school? Where did you go?
It was in LA.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think it's the only time she's done an August one, or anyway.
That's kind of cool, which is interesting too, right? Timing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So what happened when you were there? Like, I know many things do, but was there something that you got that was really,
yeah. Oh God. I had so much going on, and way more than I thought even. And so I had a son who he had taken his life 5 years before, and I thought I had I only had the course basically, and I had done a lot with that, but I had no idea. I loved finding the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet and having permission and invitation to put it, like, to really. So there was that issue. There was also I had an abortion when I was 19 that again had been under there and never really talked about it with anyone. A couple of boyfriends, but not much. And so all of that permission to bring, and I had huge shame about that, and guilt. It was like I literally felt I murdered that baby. Yeah. And I hadn't, even though I had the work, sort of had it, prior to that, I wasn't doing any of that on my own. I think I was doing, romance stuff.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The important stuff, like that guy, and
kind of back into the room. You don't realize you're backing into the house, but you think.
Well, and I thought it was really, and it was good, but I had, when I went to the school, it was really pointed there and invited and supported, and so, and then not only my son's death and suicide, but I had really, the story had really struggled with parenting him for 17 years also. So I just got to put all of that. Yeah. So just in a gift, to bring it out, to share it with people, to stand up in front of people, to say the worst and the most shameful, and that's only a tiny piece of what that school happened for me.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. There's just like what apparently happens with us. And I share one of my first things was the abortion story. I had the same thing, even lived in a completely pro-choice household. Like when I was a kid, remember my mom working for stuff like that. And I still had this devastating, and the guilt. And that was one of the first things I did in the presence of Katie. I did it on my own, but I was sitting in the audience with someone else doing it. And that's what my worksheet was on. So I understand. But it's weird. You have the things that are your story, where you just feel so flooded by that. And then by hearing other people's stories, it's amazing too. These huge shifts can happen. That's one of the things I love about being in a group with inquiry in the school. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like, that's one of the things I really loved, even reading it. It's like, oh, I love that because I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah.
I didn't even, and it's like, oh God, yeah. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds huge. I mean, so when you, and
I'll just share one other thing because I don't want to leave this out, that this seems like might not, I don't know. My mind goes to the morning walk. And I know Katie asked us not to talk about the school, but she shares that. So I feel like I can talk about the morning walk a little bit or mention it.
Yeah.
And that was really powerful for me also.
Yeah.
And, I've had people ask me sometimes that have gone to the school and they say, what was that about even? And it's like, oh my goodness. So just, even though it's not directed, say, at a issue or a thought that was really, and not in my head at all, just really gave me a very different experience.
Just so people who they might not know about the morning walk, I love it. We usually do it at least once on any retreat that I do, but it's basically a silent meditation, walking. There is no talking, and there's a brief instructions. And maybe I'll even put them, if I remember, I'll put them below our video here. Because it's sweet. It's like, this is an exercise done in silence, silent exercise. And you look at things as if it's the first time you've ever seen them in your life. And you're naming them, giving them the name without a lot of extra fluff or no, and it's said very shortly, but you have these instructions and they repeat the instructions every day in your morning walk before you go on the walk. Name things as if you're seeing them for the first time. And it's like your mind has something to do. I don't know. It's just kind of like, and don't, like if you catch yourself, there's some sort of line in the instructions about if you catch yourself beginning to describe like, oh, what a beautiful tree. I wonder what they did, like what's going on over there. I wonder how come she picked, then bring yourself back and just name what you see. Say a little more, because sometimes I've had this interesting thing where people will say, oh, I don't ever really get that exercise. I like doing the work, but that exercise I don't really get.
Yeah, I've had people say that to me too. And so actually what happened for me was I literally, for that first school, I never went past the first instruction of see it without a name. And so I never went to, it was like, and my experience was like, just, I mean, totally slowed down in that. It honestly hurt. There's some, it hurt to try to even name it. It was like, so just, and even, yeah, just slowing it down, it was like, well, like, how do you even know where, without the names on it, where does one thing end? Like, without that. So, and it was just so fun. Not having it was like looking at things without a label, having no clue at all. I mean, just at all. And yeah, and then so part of that was also just, it did really slow way down. So I remember coming into breakfast and this was, I'd love to have this now and I can do it now, but it was just super slow, like everything. And I just sat there, maybe, just even getting something on my fork took a really long time. but so, that mindfulness thing, everything was just really experiencing it. And yeah.
So sweet to have you, when you're sharing this, it strikes me too. It's like that it happens, the slowing happens, and this experiencing of it without trying to, like, we're not trying hard to be slow. We're not.
Right, or mindful. I mean, that was not even in there. It was just simply, as if you were God.
Yeah.
Seeing it for the first time.
Yes.
Without any label, and I just never left that spot. and when I finally, I don't know if it was 5 days in or whatever, where I, it's like, well, maybe I should play with that, and it just like, they're just really, it was painful to. And it kind of, a long time ago, I read there's a book by Rachel Carson, the environmentalist. She wrote it, and it was she said in there, don't teach kids the names of things. And she didn't mean forever, but she said the moment you do, they're no longer curious. It's like, oh, I know what that is. And so
wow,
that kind of comes to me. It's kind of like that. It's like I'm no longer really looking. No longer, it's dead.
so interesting. Yeah, I find with that too, the same thing, doing that morning walk, whatever time of day it is, but it's very, things are very vivid, because you're just, I don't know, you notice so much. If the instructions are not to be speaking and looking at things as if you've seen them for the first time right now, it's really, yeah, it is beautiful. Yeah. And I suppose it's like how that helps in inquiry and the work is like, that's, our ideas about what's happening between us and a person or anything that happens that is incredibly painful is to slow it way down is so useful to watch, like every little nanosecond, as they say, and to see, oh, I'm looking at an image. It's not what's actually happening in reality.
And it's my husband.
Yeah.
And it's my money. And it's my, yeah. So and also, I heard Katie, I think she shared a sweet, really short, sweet video on the morning walk. And it's a little different than the instructions that are written. And she shares about, it's like I ask it to tell me what it is. And so it's like there's that listening piece too. I'm asking rather than telling it what it's saying, I'm waiting for it to tell me. And then I love, she says after that, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah. I love that though. That's like there's a communication happening. But
yeah.
I'm here. I'm part of this whole thing that's happening. I mean, there's the observer and yeah.
Yeah. And what comes to me too is like, if you think about it, not just with people, but with nature, then there's such oh my goodness, such a different relationship there, or a different perception. It's like, what, you're listening and waiting for the trees and the grass and whatever that is, it always reminds me of Native Americans, how honoring that is.
Yeah. Wow. What have you found with that, so as you did these experiences of this inquiry on things that felt so painful, son and abortion, what have you found about like that ongoing communication or connection with that? Or did that, I don't know, how it.
Yeah. So I kind of work the death thing and then my son thing is they're sort of two separate, like all my stuff I had on him, and then just not necessarily separate. I mean, the suicide I can't separate from him, but there's also thoughts on death. Sure. And so I certainly have a lot of guilt around that, my fault. If I was a better mom, if I should have known, and those kind of thoughts. And, but it can, you know, just such a gift to explore all those concepts around death and and so actually what's been beautiful, and you probably, I think this is your story too, is like the eating disorder was your thing, so now that's what you get to share with people and really connect. And the same, so that was my first teleclass I offered. It was like, oh, this is, even as it was just, I knew that was going to be my first thing that I needed to look with people too. And then a few years ago, I thought I had done a lot of work on my son. And then I think it was 2015 when Katie offered her first silent retreat in Switzerland.
Oh,
it was around there.
Yeah.
And I watched it online, and that was really powerful for me. She really went into, I think this was the first one because I've watched several and they were each really had a kind of a different feel.
Yeah.
But she really shared with people the stillness and what it was like doing the work on your own. Because like at the school and a lot of events, you don't get that so much. It's more facilitating and you see her doing the work. And so she really gave an opportunity for that, or I really experienced that. And I was doing my own work, you know, as she facilitated, and so I was doing more work on my son, and I just saw, it was really powerful, and I saw I have so much more to do. It just opened it up. It's like, okay, you've gone through this door, and now there's all these other doors. And so again, I'm just like, yes. And so that was when I offered my first I Do Children class, because I'm like, I'm going to do this with people. And I know there's other moms out there. And so, yeah, and just, so that's just been a real gift and really powerful too. And connecting, you know, I just know what it's like to be a mom and feeling like you are don't know what to do, and you know, just in that place. And so that's been an amazing thing that's kind of opened, where I just opportunity. And then so I've offered a bunch of those, and that's been just interesting too, as I do more and more. And so when you were asking kind of where that's gone, it's like there's so much humility and just, you know, it's interesting because sometimes it's hard to see where you've come, and when you just look at yourself. And
Sure. Yeah.
and just now have a client who I've met with her like 5 times, and I can just see she's so, you know, I didn't have the work when my son was alive, and I can see she's so there. And I just how blind I was to like everything, you know, like he was the problem. And she so wants, you know, she so honestly wants help and peace. But it's like at one point we went to a counselor, and the counselor said to me, you know, find one thing, you know, good about him. And I couldn't find it. And in that time, and that's how blind I was. That's how, and of course, miracle student. And I mean,
Yeah.
those turnarounds are I just love the turnarounds, because that would have just mechanically given it to me, but I didn't. And even though the course is, what you can see it in there, it's like these are thought reversals, everything's upside down and backwards. But I didn't get that, that practical, take that specific thought in that situation and turn it around, and see and look.
Yeah.
And so doing that is just, that, and also like just so humbling and compassion, because there's more understanding. And then one thing that's really Katie's given me is I love the literal listening. So if someone says words, so I kind of put that together with literal listening and without defense. Can you just hear the words?
Yeah.
And so one example for me that it's like the difference of when I was mom and totally asleep thinking she was awake. And now, of course, I'm still asleep, but thinking I'm a little more is, so one really scary situation I had for me was one time when my son said, "Why don't you kill the cat?" And then it later evolved into, and the grandparents, why don't you kill the grandparents? And I was so horrified in that moment. Just horrified to even hear that, like, kill a cat, number one, no matter who's doing it, I'm horrified. I loved that kitty, and who would possibly think about killing your pet? And then, of course, he is my son, and then he's like, really, who is that? And then who am I that I'm his freaking mother?
Sure.
So much terror. And what I found with the work was, one, I could have just heard the question. Like, why don't you kill the cat? And could have really contemplated that. I mean, if someone would just ask, it's a question without all the horror on it. It's, and, I just saw all the fear of death and killing. So, and then even the grandparents thing, it's like I've seen, there's a lot of people who look at, there's millions, I don't know millions, but lots, who are just sort of vegetating on life support or whatever. Sure. And politicians are asking that, hospital people ask that, quality of life, and when people get, anyway, just my mind is so open to, and so there's a lot there that I could have. And I just thought it was all my fear. No one can even ask me that question, but and I also could have been way more open to just to him. Sure. Who's asking, and so, who I would be with him now would be a completely unrecognizable.
Wow. And what's kind of, amazingly profound and sweet about that is you don't have to go back in time to be that different person back then. Like, like something became really clear out of the way it went. You know, it's just amazing, like Katie's, what we're looking at here. It's not even about always what Katie, although she's sharing amazing things, but I love that she's sharing the work, but then finding out for yourself and then seeing, I am this unrecognizable person. And it's amazing, you know, that it's, I just hear as I'm sitting with you, it's so touching because it's like, you're hearing so strongly what he said back then, you're hearing it now, and you're even sharing it, you know, like what that is when we say no, but something wasn't a no because it's here, listening now, just whatever time is. I don't know. I also love how you just shared that, you know, you teach one thing that's amazing about the work is it's just practicing, and you collect with others to do your own work. I mean, you're just gathering with others to do your own work. Not like I'm a genius on whatever about death. It's not that at all. It's like, let's go look. And it's so exciting because it's a sharing, being on a shared journey. Yeah, with the mind. Very beautiful.
Yeah, and the other another class that's come out of my my needs is the money one. And well, I'm trying to think what the first two, how that happened, what the money thing was. I don't quite remember, but I can certainly, maybe it was then, maybe that was. So it was another thing, like, so I mentioned that first time I had the fire in the flood. Well, insurance paid for that, but the second time actually just came home from the mental cleanse.
Wow.
So it's really cold here. It had been colder than it had been in a long time. And I, being so financially wise, well, I turned the heat off to save, because you don't need the heat on when you're not there, right? Well, you do, because your pipes freeze otherwise. Oh. But only if it gets that cold. So anyway, yeah, and the reason I'd never turned it off before, because I always had a cat. Well, it was the first time in my life, and I just didn't know. Anyway, yeah. So I came home. It's like midnight or something, and I turned the heat on, and actually I saw that the water was frozen solid in the toilets. Oh. I still didn't think anything. I just totally had no knowledge. Turn the heat on. About 3 hours later, I start hearing this. There's gushing. There's a gushing, and I get up, and there's water coming out of the light fixtures. It's just pouring, because the pipes are broken in about, 13 places all over the house. So it's just, and I didn't even know, I'm in a condo, I didn't even know how to turn the water off. So I called 911, and it took a while to get there. And I'm standing on this, and I'm just like, oh, but I had just come from the cleanse, yay! So I was actually in a pretty good place about it.
Wow.
But I was also in a very good place that I told the insurance company I turned off the heat, and they would not pay for it because of that. Oh. So $30,000 that just prior to going to the cleanse, so I was also getting divorced. And so what that meant was that at that time, and it had been 8 years since we'd lived apart, but we'd never done the final thing. So all the money and stuff had never been divided up for 401k and stuff. And so that, I knew that was going to be happening soon. And I just read Tony Robbins' new book on money to learn all about money and stuff. And I thought it was in pretty good shape, right? I'm educating myself, and then I knew this $30,000 was it was actually coming from my inheritance. And I thought, well, that's not a nice chunk to add to the retirement. For sure, that's where it was going. But that all went to pay for the repairs of the house. And I, once again, so the prior one where I moved out, and this was all gift too. I moved in with my friend, which I never have lived with anybody for that long. I never would have invited myself to live with you for 2 months.
Yeah, right.
Like a week max, and then we're right. Anyway, so there I am at her house again, and with no notice. It's not like it'll be in a month and I'll be there. It's like, tonight. So, yeah. And so, of course, she's not going to turn me away, but she was also very honest. And so she's been a student of the course and the work for a while too. And, it was like the first few days, I wasn't there much because I was really over here cleaning up and cleaning out and getting stuff out of the house. Mm-hmm. And then finally, when that was done, now I'm physically at her house, and it kind of hit her that, oh, there's another person here now. I don't quite have all my space. And so she shared that with me, and which was beautiful. She didn't do it to be mean or anything. She's just being honest. Mm-hmm. And so it was that night I just, had feelings of like, oh shit. Oh, I'm not wanted here, and I'm not wanted anywhere. And just really scared and feeling I had nowhere to go. And so I'm like, okay, I'm doing the work. Here's my work. Right. And yeah. So, and that was so interesting too. So I actually, like, laying awake at night and being with that, ideas came to me of other people. It was like, well, if she doesn't want me here, there are other people. And I thought of someone else who had been helpful in my life. And then at that time I was part of like a ecstatic dance thing. And I just put something on their site, and people offered, people that I didn't even know that well, that you could stay here for a few. And so, friendly universe. And, and while I was at her house, so I was there for at least a month. And, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to offer a class on money because this is up for me. Yeah. And so, so just perfect. And then I think I shared, maybe I didn't, but I've just recently offered my third class, and that was because someone asked, which I love that too. It's like, I love being, I don't have to plan it all. Someone asked, like, Katie, how do you know? Because someone asked. And each one has been just really different. And one thing that was super interesting for me on that first one was there were only 3 people, but one of the people, she was brand new to the work. She had joined the certification program, and she was a coach to some of the wealthiest people in this country, literally, like literally, like Bill Gates type. Yeah. So what she brought to that class was just so amazing. People would have thoughts about rich people, and she's like, oh no. Oh no. No. And yeah, so just
so perfect, showing up just right, perfectly. I don't know, I've had that. People have come to do the work individually who have an enormous amount of money, and it is amazing. For me, it was amazing to sit there and go, oh, not like we'll get genuine proof for the sharing of like this dream that I have, that your problems are solved and you're okay if you don't have, you're worry free if you have enough money, whatever enough is. And it is just absolutely amazing for me. I just like these people shown up for me. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's made $1 gazillion 30 years ago in tech or whatever in this area, which is known where I live in Seattle. And I'm sitting there doing the work with them, and I really find out that everyone's a human being. It doesn't matter. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Helpful. But yeah, just and watching our minds. Well, just so I'm so grateful to talk with you today, Joy. And it's so sweet that you have like the topic and you just think of I had that same experience. It's like, I think I need to do the work on parenting. That happened, you know. Wow, I think I'll do the work on pain, sickness, and death. Yes. I got a cancer diagnosis. I'm like, I better gather people together. Yeah. And it is so incredible. It's just so awesome to not do it alone. It's just beautiful. It's wonderful to do it alone too. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's kind of wonderful too, that you can find that. But I have felt it incredible to have a journey be shared like this. So
yeah, and just with that, it's like even facilitating. For me, that gift of being with, like holding the space, being spacious enough and for all of it, and that alone is a huge gift to just,
yeah, to not it's such a simple and sweet way to say it, being with, but to not like run or have the urge to get away, run, or crush, you know, or like get rid of what the other person and what they're sharing, you know, like not afraid of what they're sharing, or not ashamed that they might feel shame, but just being with them, not having that, genuinely, not trying not to, but really not having it.
And for me, that's, you know, another one of the gifts, that having gone to really deep or dark places with my son, then it's I've been there. I'm okay being there, and I get it, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and please be there, and be there with you, and it's holy ground. Just, you know, like Katie, it's not, it's that thing we want to run from, but
Yeah.
that's the problem. The running.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Holy ground. Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Very inspiring. I look forward to sharing more with you on the journey. I know we're talking about doing a class together, and I love that idea.
And I just want to thank you, Grace. I admire you so much, and the work you do on all of it, but especially the eating disorder thing, I know is such a gift. And you know, whenever people ask me about that, I'm beeline to your website. And so it just, yeah, honor you so much for what you bring and the way you bring it. And you just such a beautiful gift to have the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Such loving words, and I feel the same.
Thanks for the opportunity. Sweet technology.